I'm right-handed. He's left. That's why I said we should switch. Let me get my notes. My phone is on silent. Yeah.
I thought we'd be like in a in a lounge chair, just having a conversation,
Budget.
huh?
Budget. I told you every time I go to the bank, I say I give you a name, and they say he just left. He just
Yeah,
left.
you probably don't give him my middle name.
You right. You right.
Yeah, you keep messing up,
Okay. I didn't know his middle name was Augustus.
huh?
I didn't know Jerome's middle name was Augustus.
Yeah, yeah. We all got middle names.
Yeah. You know his middle name?
No, what's his middle name?
Owens.
Owens.
You know my middle
What's your
name?
middle name?
Yes, you do.
Oh, Gail.
No, Gail. That's my middle name.
Gail?
That's my middle name.
So his first name too?
No,
No.
Two
Annie.
Gails.
And he didn't ask about the first name.
I will get in trouble. I was gonna say Gail twice.
No, her name is Annie G. That's her name, Annie G. Annie G.
Annie G.
She likes Annie G.
Like Kenny G.
Yeah, okay, but she don't play. She don't play the sax or the clarinet. But Jerome did.
He did.
Yeah. Okay. Well, my full name is Thomas Owens Fenoy. Jerome was my brother. He was the fourth son of Roosevelt and Beatrice Fenoy. I was the fifth son. So I came in right after he did.
And my name is Annie Gail Fenoy Johnson, and I am the seventh child of Roosevelt and Beatrice Fenoy, which makes me the youngest of the 7 children, not the baby.
So, in hearing that Jerome meant so much to his family and the community, his neighbors, and anyone who he crossed paths with, tell us a little bit about the legacy of Jerome Fenoy and what foundation he laid and continues to leave.
Well, I think Jerome he started off as a businessman because he had his own paper route, and he became more of a family man with his focus directly on Alberta, his wife, and especially the 2 girls, Tiffany and Tia, and Kevin and Aaron. So he became what they would look to. And I think he became a model for anyone that wanted to know how to be a father. He was that father. He worked hard, and he took time for his family. So even though he worked hard, family was always important to him.
Okay, and to piggyback on that, not only was family, the family that he had in Baltimore, but also the family that he started with in South Carolina. Tommy just said that Jerome started off with the paper route, and he did. And I remember early Sunday mornings, he would get up and he would bring the papers into the house because we were living in the projects at the time. And what Jerome would do, he would wake up Faye, my sister, and me, and he would ask us to help him roll the papers. And then after we rolled the papers, we would have to put the papers in the back of the car, our mother's station wagon, and then I think sometimes we went with him to deliver those papers because I could just see him in the back of the car just throwing the papers to to the different houses who had subscribed to the Spartanburg was Herald Journal. Yes. Okay.
So we think about, kind of the backstory or the history of Jerome Fennoy. Give us a fond moment that you can remember that many of us may not know.
Well, I'll start. I talked to my siblings, and they don't seem to remember this, and which is really unusual to me because since I'm the youngest, it seems that I wouldn't remember. But I remember when Jerome got a little upset with his brothers, not his sisters, his brothers. And my brother Roosevelt said that Jerome would always not settle the conflict himself. He would go to our parents and have them settle it, which is what children should do. But I remember when we were living in the projects, and this was after our father had passed away, and Jerome had gotten into a conflict with one of the brothers, and he
Wasn't
said,
me.
he said, "You better not go to bed tonight. You better not go to bed tonight." Well, Jerome went to bed, the siblings went to bed, they slept all night, and thank God all of them were able to get up the next morning.
Okay, Tom.
Well,
Go fast. Get a shower. If you guys could turn your phones off, turn your phones off for me, please. Okay. Because this microphone picks up everything.
in the summertime, as kids, our parents allow us to go to 96 South Carolina. Not too many people know about 96, but it's a small town where my grandmother grew up, and our mother would allow us to go down there to spend a few weeks down there. And she had cows and chickens, and one day Jerome was supposed to be taking the cow to pasture. He had a rope around him, but the cow had other intentions. The cow decided to pull him to where he wanted Jerome to go, instead of Jerome pulling the cow to where Jerome wanted the cow to go. And I thought, and I think we laughed and joked about that for years upon years upon years. So that was a fun memory that I've always held on to.
So is that the time when he said, "Winnie Merle"?
No, that's not that. No,
Oh,
no,
that wasn't
no.
the time?
That was
Okay.
a time. That was the time. It was in the same little town that he said that. I didn't know. I didn't know if we wanted to bring that one up or not. But you go right ahead, and if you want to
Well, you were
elaborate
there.
on that. Yeah, I was there.
You were there, but I wasn't there, so I'll be going according to hearsay. So
Yeah, and I don't know if this is camera appropriate, but we were kids. I mean, we were. Jerome may have been 7, 8. So I was 1 year behind him. And Jerome messed himself. And William is the second oldest son. And Jerome said, Winnie Merle, come here. Look what I done did. I done messed myself. And we held on to that also. So I don't know if that's a cut or a keep, because I wasn't going to say anything about that. But little Miss, not the youngest, so she say, wanted to bring that one up. So it is. It's on camera. And I don't know if we're going to cut it or we're going to keep it.
We're going to keep it. We're going to keep it. We'll keep it. We'll pivot. We'll pivot.
Okay.
So when you think about, envision, reflect on Jerome Fennoy, the presence and the sound of Alberta Fennoy is always looming. Give us a little bit about the impact their relationship and the impact that relationship had on so many others and yourselves as well.
Oh, I think they were a fun couple together. They had a special word, and no matter where they were, no matter what company they were in, even if they were disgusted with each other, they would always say, "Dear, dear this and dear that," and I think that's something that even when they left our presence, we kind of picked up on that ourselves. I might say something to my wife, dear this and dear that, because it was very catchy thing that they would say. So I think that was worth noteworthy also.
So speak a little bit about Alberta and what she meant to him and what their relationship meant to others as well. But start off with saying Alberta, and then
Okay, Alberta meant so much and means so much to all of us, as well as the relationship that she and Jerome had. Uh, One of my brothers told me that there are two kinds of people in life: the givers and the takers. And he said that both Jerome and Berta are givers because they give of themselves. And I told her so many times, your spiritual gift is giving because you're always giving and doing for others.
Yeah.
And I remember when when my sister and I were in high school, Jerome would get off from work, I think early in the morning, and he would take my sister and me to Forest Park High School, which is the high school that both of us graduated from. And it wasn't a short distance; it was quite a distance, maybe 5 or 7 miles away. And he did that without hesitation, and we didn't appreciate it as much then as we do now because Jerome was always giving. I remember uh, as a child, uh, even when we were helping him fold his papers to distribute to the subscribers, then Jerome would always give my sister and me an allowance. Now he was a young kid; he wasn't even 15 when when we moved to Baltimore. But he gave my sister and me an allowance because I guess he felt that when you work, you get paid. So that's what he did. He gave us an allowance whenever we helped him. And then he would send us to the store and get him a Pepsi Cola and peanuts every day. Pepsi Cola and peanuts. And he loved Pepsi Colas, and he used to put the peanuts inside the Pepsi Cola to see the fuzz come up. It would just fizz all up. So he loved that too.
Tom.
That reminds me of the fact that he loved Rice Krispies treats, and I think he made them more popular than Kellogg's. I think Kellogg's is I think because we didn't start seeing Rice Krispies treats on the shelf until a few years ago. Well, he was making Rice Krispie treats back in the 60s, maybe even the 50s.
I don't remember that then.
Well, it had to be because our father died when I was well, yeah, it must have been in the 60s.
60s, right.
Yeah, it had to be the 60s because that's when he got his paper route. So yeah, he would make Rice Krispie treats, and they were so delicious that, and that's the selfish part of him, because he didn't want to share them, and so in order not to share them, he hid them under his pillow in order to keep us from eating them because they were just that good. So I think that was a fun memory also that I had of him. And we talking about Alberta and Jerome, and we talking about this Galaxy 500 that he had. I'm pretty sure that not too many people remember the Galaxy 500, but whenever myself and Priscilla would want to get a ride, he would make sure the bottom of our shoes was already cleaned off before we got in. But for Berta, whatever Berta wanted, Berta got. Berta didn't have to do anything like that. Only thing she had to do is just get in. I mean, she was number one. She was all that plus, and he really loved Alberta. I think Alberta was his one and only love, and he loved her just as much as he loved Tia and Tiffany, Kevin and Aaron. He loved them, and he would do anything he could to make sure that they got the things that they needed. The fact that he would the vacations that he would take them on. I think everybody else may have been envious because he had this big old blue van. and that thing must have been about, even then it must have been 15, 20 years old. But they would get in that van and they would go and they would head south. And the whole family, and they would enjoy themselves and they would come back and they would have a good time. The same way it was with their house. They had this house on Liberty Road.
6204.
The house on the hill, and it was an open house because they always welcomed everybody in there, and we would always go there to have a good time. I mean, we really had a good time there and so it's a 6204? 6204
Liberty Road.
Liberty Terrace. So yeah, I think Berta and Jerome and kids were a match made in heaven.
I'm going to go back to the green Galaxy 500, and we're still talking about Jerome and Berta being givers. Well, one year we were having an affair in Detroit, so Jerome decided to drive his Galaxy 500, and Berta and Jerome were in the front seat, and then I was in the back seat in the middle, and then my brother Sam was on one side and Will was on the other side. Well, we got involved in a lot of heavy traffic, so Jerome had to put on brakes all of a sudden. Unbeknownst to him, there was a pineapple upside down cake sitting on the back dash in the middle. And when he put on brakes, guess where the pineapple upside down cake ended? In my head. In my head. And they thought it was so funny, and I was crying. I didn't think it was funny because it wasn't funny at all. So I called my brother Roosevelt in Baltimore to, just for some comfort, right? And Roosevelt said, oh, well, when you got to Detroit, I'm sure they didn't think you were from Baltimore. They thought you were from Hawaii with all of with all those pineapples in your head. So yeah, but that's another fun because they were always giving and giving and giving, and we had to go somewhere. They would always take their van, and we would travel, and we just had a good time. A good time.
It was before cell phones. And we were going to Tennessee.
Gatlinburg.
And we went to Tennessee, but during the road trip, since we didn't have cell phones, we made signs and put it in our windows. And so whatever if somebody needed to go to the bathroom, then there was a bathroom. We made a sign saying we got to stop to go to the bathroom, or we got to stop to go get something to eat. Whatever we needed to do, there was a sign that we had to. And we had about four or five cars.
Yeah.
And
vans, two
and
vans,
van, yeah.
two
I had a
vans.
van, and Jerome had a van,
Others had cars.
and so we had to make signs, and then we were going up we were going up these mountains, and brakes gave away. Remember the brake?
Right.
The brakes gave away because it was so steep, and so that was also a fun time that we participated in with our family. And Jerome was always there, and he was always willing to take the lead to go wherever we wanted to go. So
Lashley, who was Jerome personally to you? Who was your Jerome Fenoy? Start with that.
Okay, well, Jerome was my protector. He was my older brother that I looked up to, because when we moved to Baltimore, Sam was the oldest brother at the time, but then Sam decided to go back to South Carolina, which left Jerome, Tommy, my sister, and me in Baltimore. And Jerome was the one that I looked up to. Jerome took me to, well, first of all, he taught me how to drive. And one thing he told me is that make sure you know how to drive, because of all the people I've taken to take their driving test, everyone passed it the first time around. So don't mess up my record. So I didn't mess up his record. Jerome was there with me when I bought my first car, my first used car, as well as my first new car. Jerome, when I moved from my apartment into my first home, or before moving into my first home, Jerome, I told Jerome, I said, Jerome, I'm going out to get a house. No. I'm ready to buy another car. He said, what's wrong with the car you have now? I said, nothing. He said, so why do you want to buy another car? And I said, it's because I just want another car. And he said, no, don't buy a car, buy a house. And that's what I did. You know, Jerome came over. Every house I considered, he came in and he looked at it and gave me suggestions. He said, well, no, this won't be a good fit for you. And then he said, but one thing for sure, do not buy a house on a busy street. So the houses that we looked at, they were not on busy streets. And I can understand that, because 6204 was on a very busy street, and he knew how the traffic would affect a person's sleep. Jerome was there when what else? The house, he would come over, and he was the fix-it man also for me. So he would come over and he would fix things, and then I didn't know anything about a thermostat. What kind of thermostat? Programmable thermostat. Evidently he and Alberta had one, and they got me one for Christmas. And Jerome came over to the house and he installed it for me, and he did quite a bit for me. So he was the brother that, not that I didn't look up to Tommy, but I looked up to Jerome, because he was the one, he was the oldest, and he just meant so much, so much.
So I just remember Jerome as being just a nice guy. He seemed like there was never any trouble that he got into. That he was a worker. That he enjoyed himself without having to get in any kind of trouble. And so I think that's what I can remember about him. That he was just a nice guy that never got into any kind of trouble that I can remember. And so because of that, then I was always able to go to him because I knew that any advice that I may need, he wouldn't steer me wrong because he was always doing what was right over anything else. And so he was nice and he was easygoing. He was like always on a level keel. And so I can appreciate that, you know. So I never seen him. I seen him get angry, but not to the point that he got out of control. He may have voiced his opinion, but he never ever got out of control. And so that's something that people don't seem like they can control themselves. It seemed like he always did. Even when he was sick, leaving the railroad, he seemed like he would do what was necessary. And that's one other thing that I think that was funny about him and Berta. Sorry to go back there, but the fact that as sick as he was, he always seemed like he put his hand somewhere that Berta knew that he knew that she knew what he wanted, and so he would always lift his hand. He might lay his hand on her behind. He might lay a hand up on her breast. He might lay his hand anywhere he wanted to, because he knew that Berta will understand, and she would say, "Child, y'all know how he is. He don't ever stop that." So he was just a good guy. Good guy.
He was, and he was loved.
Yeah.
Loved dearly.
Yeah.
Yeah.